what to do when you get a trumpet, and first steps for beginners. I've been playing the trumpet for 25 years, and I'm going to give you 8 steps on what to do when you get a trumpet and first steps for beginners. The first step is we need to make sure that the trumpet case is in an upright position before opening the case to make sure the trumpet does not fall out. The second step is I'm going to show you how to put the mouthpiece into the trumpet. So here's the trumpet and here's the mouthpiece. So you're going to stick the mouthpiece into the trumpet and you're going to turn it slightly. Now you don't want to manhandle it. You don't want to really torque on it, because if you do, it's going to get stuck. Another thing to avoid is to hit on it and also avoid bumping it against things. But luckily, if you're in band, your band director will have a mouthpiece puller and he'll be able to pull it out real quickly. The third step is I'm going to tell you how to hold your hands on the trumpet. So here's the trumpet. This is the left side of the trumpet here. You got the first valve saddle here and the third valve slide ring here. So you're going to put your thumb into the first valve side saddle. You're going to wrap your fingers around the valve casings, and then you're going to put your pinky finger into the third valve slide ring. Now, if you have really big hands, you might put your ring finger into that slide, whatever's comfortable for you, that you can easily slide it in and out. So now with your right hand, these are the valve casings here. So you're going to stick your thumb in between the first valve and the second valve casing. You're going to put your index finger on the first valve. You're going to put your middle finger on the second valve, and you're going to put your ring finger on the third valve, and you're going to put your pinky on the pinky ring, which is right here. Now, online, when you see professionals or even on TV, you may see guys playing like this with one hand, putting their finger inside the pinky ring. I wouldn't recommend that. For beginners, it's not a good idea. You may drop your trumpet, or no telling what could happen. So always hold your hands like this. It's the best way. So now the fourth step is I'm going to show you how to hold your lips to play a note on the trumpet. So how to get your embouchure set, in other words. So what we're going to do here is you're going to kind of make kind of an sound. So that's what you do. You want to get your corners tight like this, like that, and you want to keep this flat, and you want to be about 50-50 on the lips. So what you don't want to do is you don't want to put one lip on top of the other like this, like that, or the other way, like that. You don't want to do that. So 50-50 on the lips. So the fifth step is we're going to talk about how to play your first note. So what we're going to do here is what you don't want to do is you don't want to puff your cheeks. So like this, you don't want to do that. Another thing to do is if you're having trouble playing a note, we're fixing to try to play a note here in a minute. Another thing to keep in mind is that when you blow air through your embouchure, or how you hold your lips to play the trumpet, there's going to be an opening. So I'm going to blow real quick. You're going to see the opening. You can see the opening when I get up close. So if you decrease the size of the opening, it'll be easier to play a note. So you can kind of experiment with that. But we're going to try to play a note. We're just going to blow through the instrument. Most likely you're going to play a G or a C. Just play it open. Don't press any valves down. And we'll see how that goes. So here we go. So that was a C. This is a G. All right. So now, step number 6. We're going to talk about how to tongue notes. So in the last step, we were just blowing air to start the note. But the correct way to start notes, in most cases, is to use a tongue. And when we do that, it's a more crisp sound and more sudden when you play the note. It's not so airy and then the note. So the way this is going to work is that it's going to be like a 2-2-2 sound. So 2-2-2. Your tongue is going to be hitting the top, the roof of your mouth, and also the back of your top teeth. So kind of in that area. So let's try to tongue some notes on while we're playing a note, either a G or C, just open. Okay. we go. So, step number 7 is going to be an intro to nature tones. And nature tones are essentially notes that can be played without any valves pressed down. So the natural notes for the instrument. So I'm going to play some natural notes, nature tones for you right here. So those are some nature tones. So step number 8 is going to be an explanation of how a valve works and what it does to produce sound. So essentially what happens with these valves when you press them down, the nature tones, the difference between a nature tone and pressing the valves down is when you press the valve down, it goes through the different tubings. So you got the first valve slide for valve number 1, you got the second valve slide for valve number 2, and you have the third valve slide, which is right here for valve number 3. And essentially the air has to travel a further distance through the instrument, and the further the distance, the lower the note. So you're going to go lower, the note's going to be lower away from the nature tone. So if you press 1 down, it's going to be a little bit lower, you know, and so on and so forth. So now I'm going to explain to you exactly how this works as far as how many steps lower it is for each valve combination, so you can kind of get an idea of what we're working with here. So if we look at these different valve slides, this is the smallest valve slide here, the second valve slide. When you press down 2, it's very small. That's the smallest one. This valve slide, number 1 valve slide, when you press down number 1, is about twice the size of the second valve slide. Now, if we look at the third valve slide, which is here, it's much longer than the first or the second. It's about 3 times as long as the second valve slide. So essentially here, if we press down number 2 valve slide, it's going to be a half step lower. If we press down number 1, it's going to be twice that distance. It's going to be 1 step lower. And if we press down number 3, it's going to travel through the third valve slide, and it's going to be 1.5 steps lower, because it's 3 times the distance of traveling through the second valve slide. Now, other valve combinations, for the third valve slide to keep in mind is 1 and 2, because the combination of 1 and 2, which is 1 step lower for valve number 1 and a half step lower for valve number 2, so that's 1.5, which is the same as 3. And what you'll commonly see is that the valve combination 1 and 2 is much more common to 3 because it sounds much better and you get a better tone. So keep that in mind. Other valve combinations are, it's easier to see here. So the other valve combinations are 2 and 3, which is going to be 2 steps lower. It's going to be 1.5 steps for 3, and then a half step lower for 2, which is going to make it 2 steps lower. And then we have 1 and 3, which is going to be 2.5 steps lower, 1 step lower for 1, and 1.5 steps lower for 3. And then the last combination is going to be 1, 2, and 3, which is going to be 3 steps lower. 1 step lower for 1, a half step lower for 2, and 1.5 steps lower for 3. So that's 3 total. So there's only one more thing I want to mention in this video, is that when we're pressing down the third valve, so for a combination of 1 and 3 or 2 and 3, for a D or E flat, this is D, this is E flat, you're going to slide out the third valve slide. So when you have that down, you're going to slide that out for 2 and 3, and for 1 and 3. And what that do is essentially those notes, the D and the E flat, are sharp notes. So when you lengthen that valve slide, you slide it out, it's going to make that note have to travel a further distance, and it's going to make the note a little bit flatter, and since it's sharp, it makes it a little bit flatter, it's going to bring it right into tune. So this completes this video. Please like this video, subscribe to this channel, and comment below if you'd like me to cover any other topics about the trumpet. Thanks for listening to this video, and check out some of my other videos on YouTube. Thanks a lot. Bye-bye.